So we've just been thinking about Europe after Napoleon and how these major powers sit down to decide what the future of Europe is going to look like. And they're guided by certain terms. And one of the ideas we were thinking about was conservatism. They are defined by the principles of conservatism. According to them, stability is the most important thing to encourage for the future of Europe within countries. And for them, what keeps a country stable is the aristocracy and the church. And if you take away those things, it's like taking away a card from a house of cards. It would all collapse. And these forces then, the aristocracy and the church, they're threatened by some other forces, by liberalism, giving people the popular vote, and by nationalism, because nationalism will divide and tear up the states from within, such as Austria, which is made up of loads of different nationalities. So what's important to keep the aristocracy and the church? What needs to be attacked? Nationalism and liberalism, because that will reduce the power of the aristocracy if people have the vote, and it will reduce the power of the church if people are allowed to say what they want, worship in the way that they want. And it will threaten the nations themselves, the states themselves, if nationalism is unleashed on these quite diverse states. Another term which is important here to understand is the concert of Europe. The outlook of conservatism leads to the creation of the concert of Europe, which is an informal alliance of states set up really to prevent revolutions. It's almost like the first form of international security, where the different states of Europe, their foreign ministers, meet quite regularly to decide what to do in terms of major foreign policy questions, and especially if there is any internal dissent within the countries, how can they operate and cooperate to ensure that there is no revolution, there is no uprising amongst the people. They want everything to be nice and stable, nice and orderly, just like a concert, which is obviously conducted by the maestro. And so they all look to one person, actually, to do that, which is Metternich, and we'll think about him in a moment. In creating this concert of Europe, this stability, this harmony, they believe as well that there is important to keep the balance of power in the system. A balance of power is just a state of stability between competing forces. So in international relations, it refers to equilibrium amongst countries or alliances to prevent any one entity from becoming too strong and gaining the ability to enforce its will on the rest. So we can think about a balance of power being present during the Cold War. The reason that it never became a hot war was because the two sides were quite evenly matched. Even though America's military power was strong and its economic policy was really strong, the Soviet military and nuclear weapons able to balance that out. And so for the powers of the time, the balance of power is essential. We can't allow one power to become more powerful than the rest, because that will upset this concert of Europe, this harmony between the states. You can't have a country like France becoming suddenly too powerful. Now, I mentioned earlier that there is a maestro. If we think about the idea of the concert of Europe, if we think about Europe acting like a kind of concert, then Metternich is the maestro. He is the man conducting it. Metternich is the Austrian foreign minister and will later become the Chancellor of Austria. And he's crucial in the Congress of Vienna in making sure that this new system is set up of harmony between the states, of stability within the states. And he creates what's called the Metternich system. He's going to be really important in the future sessions. Sometimes this whole period of almost 40 years is called the Age of Metternich. From 1815 to 1848, a very long time, Metternich is dominating the ruling of Europe. So much so that he's called the coachman of Europe. And he himself is a absolute fanatical conservative. If you can be fanatically conservative, he is the fanatical conservative. He wants tradition to reign and will do anything he can to stop revolution occurring again. He does not want a repeat of the French Revolution under any circumstances. We'll think about him a little bit later on. So, as the powers come together to decide the future of Europe, they are guided by these ideas. Conservatism, keeping everything stable within the countries and between them. They believe in the balance of power. We don't want one country to become too powerful. And they're guided by the idea of the Holy Alliance, protecting the power of the monarchs and of the church. And so they gather then at Vienna, in the Congress of Vienna, from 1814 to 1815, to decide what is it going to look like. It is basically the Paris Peace Conference after 1918, mainly taking place in 1919, but after Napoleon rather than after World War I, with a different emphasis. Rather than Germany being the defeated threat, they're now looking to France and wanting to reduce the power of France going forwards, but also award victories. And so we will want to think about who are the winners of the Congress of Vienna. We can see here what Europe looks like before the Congress of Vienna, with the French dominating, and we can see on the other hand what it looks like afterwards. Very different. There are huge changes. France is obviously massively reduced, that goes without saying, but it's not completely destroyed. It's not absolutely humiliated. Some people want to humiliate it, but others step in to stop it from being completely humiliated. We also see Prussia getting quite big. Look at Prussia here, just this little section, barely even in Germany. It's more in the direction of Poland than the Baltic states. Now we see Prussia being awarded territory properly in Germany, and actually to the west of Germany. We see Austria grow as well. Again, Austria looking quite small there, but now Austria looking very large, and extending, perhaps not so much into Germany, but extending a lot into Italy and the Italian states. Let's have a look then at some of the advantages of the nations. Who has really won from this? Well, Britain gains various overseas territories. Britain isn't really bothered about Europe and getting power in the continent. It's never been the focus of Britain to do that. But it's continuing to build its empire, so Britain's quite happy with what it's got. Russia gains much more Poland and some Eastern European territories. Again, Russia starts at this point to get to quite a scary size. We see, Russia quite pushed back there, almost about how it is now, actually. But now it's being pushed right into Europe, into Poland. Prussia, as we've said, gains this huge amount of land in the west. It doubles its population, increasing the population of 10 million. And Prussia was tasked with keeping France at bay now because of its new territory in the west. So have a look. Prussia now is on the Rhine. Prussia is the defender against the future French threat. It will have to defend the country. It will have to defend the honour of Germany. But it's also picked up a lot of citizens who don't really want to be part of Prussia. Not everyone living in this new territory was happy to be Prussian all of a sudden. And these are Westphalians, these are Catholics, not Protestants. And they're quite separated from the actual heart of Prussia, which is miles over in the east. So this could cause some problems in the future. But it also gives Prussia a clear staging post to unite Germany in the future. Austria gains a lot of land in Italy, not so much in Germany, but it will take control of a new German organisation called the German Confederation. So for what it doesn't get in land, it does get in prestige and power over Germany. France is reduced in size significantly, but it wasn't humiliated. And smaller states were created as buffers to contain France. Again, remember, France is the big threat of the day, not Germany. We're used to Germany being the threat in the 20th century. But now it's all about containing France. A big thing, and this is really almost the final thing to consider, is the Congress of Vienna creates the German Confederation. And the German Confederation is very similar to the Holy Roman Empire. It's basically Holy Roman Empire Mark II, which isn't great for German nationalists. And it's designed really very much to prevent a German state from being created. Again, this is a weak organisation. It's an organisation where the states really still have complete power and they're not told what to do by any central authority, but the states have been reduced to 39. Austria has a ruling position in it. Again, it's very ceremonial, but Austria is at the top of the position, presiding over the German Confederation. So they're in a quite a strong position.